I want to start with a truth that can be hard to swallow. Not everyone who smiles at you, texts you, or even spends time with you actually cares about you. We all want to believe that the people in our lives have good intentions, that they're invested in us the way we're invested in them. But the reality, some people are just there. They take up space in your life without truly showing up for you. Let's talk about the invisible yet powerful difference between people who genuinely care about you and those who don't. Empathy versus indifference. Empathy is one of the most profound ways we connect as human beings. It's the ability to sit with someone in their pain without trying to fix, dismiss, or ignore it. It's the choice to understand, not because you've lived their exact experience, but because you're willing to imagine what it feels like. Now, contrast that with indifference. Indifference isn't just the absence of empathy, it's an active disengagement from your emotions, struggles, and experiences. It's when someone sees you hurting and does nothing. No check-ins, no effort to understand, no real concern, just a shrug, maybe a quick change of subject, or even a subtle eye roll that says, "Why are you making this a big deal?" Empathy says, "I see you, your feelings matter." Indifference says, "Your emotions are inconvenient to me." How to recognize indifference disguised as care. Here's the tricky part. Indifference doesn't always show up as cold-hearted neglect. Sometimes it wears a disguise. A person who doesn't truly care about you may still look engaged on the surface. They might send a casual text, give a half-hearted "that sucks," or nod while you talk, just enough to appear present, but not enough to be emotionally present. So how do you tell the difference? Look at their actions. Do they remember important things about your life, or do they constantly forget? Do they ask follow-up questions about things you've shared, or do they let your words float away like they never mattered? Do they make space for you in conversations, or are you always the one listening to them? When you're in pain, do they offer support, or do they find an excuse to leave the conversation? People who care will show up consistently, not just when it's easy or convenient. Indifference, on the other hand, reveals itself over time. It's in the way they make you feel like your emotions are a burden instead of something worth holding space for. The emotional cost of indifference, being on the receiving end of indifference, can be deeply damaging. When someone consistently ignores or invalidates your feelings, it can make you start to question yourself. Am I overreacting? Am I asking for too much? But here's the truth. Your emotions are not too much. Your need for connection is not a flaw. You are not wrong for wanting to be seen, heard, and understood. The people who care about you will make you feel cared for, not just with words, but through actions. They will lean in even when the conversation is uncomfortable. They will check in even when life gets busy. They will make you feel like your emotions matter because to them, you matter. And the people who don't, they'll let silence do the talking. And eventually that silence will tell you everything you need to know. We live in a world where connection is easier than ever. Text messages, social media likes, quick check-ins. On the surface, it looks like we're surrounded by people who care. But if we dig a little deeper, we start to see the truth. Not all connections are real. Some are just surface level. A surface level connection is a relationship that exists in form but lacks substance. It's when someone is physically present in your life but emotionally absent. They engage in small talk, respond to your messages, maybe even hang out with you from time to time, but there's no depth, no real emotional investment. If you disappeared tomorrow, they might notice your absence, but they wouldn't feel it in a meaningful way. How to recognize surface level connections. Surface level connections can be deceiving because on the outside, they mimic real friendships or relationships. But the key difference is this: they don't go beyond convenience. Think about the people in your life. Have you ever interacted with someone who only talks to you when they're bored or needs something, keeps conversations light and avoids anything deep or personal, is quick to celebrate with you in the good times but vanishes when you struggle, seems friendly in person but never makes an effort to reach out or check in? If so, that person may not actually care about you, they care about what you provide in the moment. The emotional toll of shallow relationships. The problem with surface level connections is that they can make you feel connected on the outside while leaving you emotionally unfulfilled on the inside. It's like drinking salt water when you're thirsty. It seems like it should help, but in the end, it just leaves you more depleted. Have you ever shared something personal with someone only to have them respond with a generic, huh, that's crazy, or immediately shift the conversation back to themselves? That's what a surface level connection feels like. It's a one-sided transactional relationship where real emotions don't have a place. And when you surround yourself with too many of these shallow connections, you might start feeling lonely, even in a crowded room. Why some people keep relationships at the surface. Now let's be clear, not everyone who engages in surface level relationships is doing it maliciously. Some people avoid depth because they've been hurt before. Some are emotionally unavailable, struggling with their own ability to connect. Others simply don't prioritize meaningful relationships because they view friendships and social interactions as disposable. But regardless of the reason, the result is the same. If a person isn't willing to invest in the relationship, they don't truly care about you. Breaking free from superficial relationships. So what can you do? If you start recognizing that a connection in your life is only surface level, you have a choice. Decide if you're okay with it. Not every relationship needs to be deep. Some friendships are lighthearted and fun, and that's okay. But if you're craving something deeper, you need to prioritize the people who reciprocate that depth. Test the waters. Try opening up a little more. See if they engage with you on a deeper level. If they do, maybe the relationship just needed an invitation to grow. If they don't, that tells you all you need to know. Invest in people who invest in you. Time and energy are limited resources. Spend them on the people who genuinely care about your well-being, not just those who are around for convenience. At the end of the day, 100 surface level connections will never replace one real, meaningful relationship. Choose depth. Choose people who show up. Choose the connections that truly see you. Life isn't just made up of sunny days, celebrations, and smooth roads. Sometimes it's a storm, a loss, a heartbreak, a period of uncertainty. And in those moments, one of the clearest truths about people emerges. Those who care will show up. Those who don't will disappear. It's easy to be present in someone's life when things are light and easy, when the laughter is flowing, when success is in the air, when the energy is high, everyone wants to be around. But when struggle enters the picture, the crowd thins. Have you ever gone through something painful, a breakup, a job loss, a personal crisis, and found that certain people who were always around before suddenly stopped calling, stopped texting, made excuses for why they couldn't be there? That's absence in difficult times. That's the silent revelation of who was really in your corner and who was just there for the good times. How to recognize the people who disappear when life gets tough. Pay attention to how people respond. Those who don't truly care will exhibit some common behaviors. They go silent. Maybe they used to text all the time, but suddenly when you're struggling, their messages dry up. They avoid deep conversations. If you try to talk about what's going on, they quickly change the subject or brush it off. They minimize your pain. Instead of offering support, they say things like, "It's not that bad," or "You'll get over it." They make excuses. they're suddenly too busy to check in, too overwhelmed with their own lives to be there for you. They shift the focus back to themselves. If they do talk to you, it's not to listen, it's to tell you how hard their life is, as if your pain is an inconvenience to them. At first, you might try to rationalize it. Maybe they just don't know what to say. Maybe they assume, I'm fine. And sure, not everyone knows the perfect words to comfort someone, but people who care don't need the perfect words, they just show up. Why some people disappear during hard times, it's painful when someone you thought cared about you vanishes when you need them the most. But why does it happen? Why do some people choose to be absent? They don't know how to handle emotions. Some people are deeply uncomfortable with other people's pain. They don't know how to hold space for it, so instead of leaning in, they pull away. They were only there for the fun. If a friendship or relationship was built on good times and convenience, it was never real in the first place. Struggles require depth, and some people simply aren't willing to go there. They're too self-absorbed. Some people only care about themselves. They might be friendly, but they don't have the capacity or the desire to be present when it doesn't benefit them. They assume someone else will take care of you. They might think, oh, they have other friends to lean on, so they take themselves off the hook. They fear responsibility. Supporting someone through a tough time requires effort, patience, and presence. Some people simply don't want that responsibility. Whatever the reason, the result is the same. They weren't truly invested in your well-being. And that realization, while painful, is also clarifying the people who stay and why they matter most. While some people will disappear, others will do the opposite. They will show up. These are the people who check in, who offer a listening ear, who say, I'm here, what do you need? Sometimes showing up doesn't mean fixing anything. It doesn't mean having the perfect words or knowing all the answers. It just means being there, sitting in the discomfort with you, holding space. The ones who do that, they're rare. They're priceless. They're the ones worth keeping close. What to do when you realize someone was never really there. Discovering that someone you trusted won't show up for you is painful, but it's also a gift of clarity. Once you see who's truly in your corner, you can stop chasing one-sided relationships. If someone doesn't care enough to stand by you in hard times, they don't deserve a front row seat in your life. Invest in the people who do show up, the ones who call, check in, and listen. Those are your people. Pour your energy into them. Understand that not everyone is capable of deep connection. Some people simply aren't wired for it, and that's okay. But you deserve relationships that are built on real care. Set new expectations. Don't expect depth from those who have shown you they can't provide it. Instead, recognize them for what they are and adjust accordingly. At the end of the day, difficult times are like a filter. They reveal who's truly there for you and who is just passing through. And the most powerful thing you can do, stop giving energy to people who disappear. Start giving it to those who stay. One of the clearest signs that someone doesn't truly care about you is how they handle your emotions. When you share something vulnerable, something that hurts, something that excites you, something that deeply matters, do they lean in? Do they make space for your feelings, or do they brush it off, make a joke, or shift the conversation back to themselves? Dismissal of your feelings is one of the most painful forms of neglect because it sends a message. What you feel doesn't. And if someone repeatedly makes you feel like your emotions are unimportant, insignificant, or even annoying, then the truth is clear. They don't care about you in the way that you deserve. How emotional dismissal shows up. Emotional dismissal doesn't always look like outright cruelty. In fact, it often comes in subtle, seemingly harmless ways. But over time, these behaviors can leave you feeling invisible, unheard, and even questioning whether your emotions are valid in the first place. Here are some common ways people dismiss your feelings. Minimizing your emotions. It's not that big of a deal. You're overreacting. Just get over it. Other people have it worse. You're too sensitive. This type of dismissal makes you feel like you're being dramatic for having emotions at all. It invalidates your feelings by comparing them to something worse or making it seem like you shouldn't be feeling what you feel. Ignoring you completely. You express something important and they change the subject. You text them about something that's bothering you and they leave you on read. You try to share your feelings and they simply don't respond. When someone repeatedly ignores your emotions, it sends the message that they care enough to acknowledge your pain, your joy, or anything in between. Making it about themselves, you say, I had a really hard day. And they respond with, you think your day was bad? Listen to what I went through. You share your excitement about something and they immediately talk about their own accomplishments. Instead of holding space for your emotions, they find a way to shift the focus back onto themselves. This type of dismissal is particularly frustrating because it not only invalidates your feelings, but also makes you feel like your experiences aren't worthy of attention. Mocking or joking about your emotions, they laugh when you express something serious. They make sarcastic comments about your feelings. They call you too emotional or dramatic when you're being vulnerable. Mockery is one of the most toxic ways people dismiss emotions. It turns something personal and meaningful into something laughable. And over time, it can make you feel like your emotions aren't safe to share at all. Giving unsolicited advice instead of listening, instead of saying, that sounds really hard, I'm here for you, they say, you should just do XYZ to fix it. They try to problem solve when all you needed was to be heard. They treat your emotions like an inconvenience rather than something that deserves to be acknowledged. While advice can sometimes be helpful, there's a time and place for it. Often people just need someone to listen, not someone to rush in and fix things. When someone skips over the listening part, it shows they aren't truly interested in what you feel. They just want to move past it. The damage emotional dismissal can cause. When someone constantly dismisses your feelings, it doesn't just hurt in the moment, it has long-term effects. Over time, you might start to doubt your own emotions. You might start wondering, am I really overreacting? Am I being too sensitive? Feel emotionally disconnected from them. If they never validate your feelings, you may stop wanting to share anything at all. Suppress your emotions. You might start bottling things up, believing that no one cares enough to listen. Feel alone, even in their presence. Being in a relationship, whether friendship, family, or romantic, where your emotions are ignored can feel lonelier than being alone. Why do some people dismiss your feelings? It's frustrating and painful when someone constantly disregards your emotions, but why do they do it? Here are a few possible reasons. They lack emotional intelligence. Some people simply don't know how to handle emotions, either theirs or yours. They weren't raised in environments where feelings were acknowledged, so they've learned to brush them off instead. They don't want the responsibility of emotional support. Truly being there for someone requires time, effort, and emotional presence. Some people just don't want to put in that effort. They are uncomfortable with vulnerability. When you share something deep, it forces them to confront their own emotions, and they may not be ready or willing to do that. They are self-absorbed. Plain and simple, some people just don't care enough to prioritize anyone's emotions but their own. They are emotionally manipulative. In toxic relationships, emotional dismissal is often a control tactic, making you feel like your emotions don't matter so they can keep the power dynamic in their favor. What to do when someone constantly dismisses your feelings. If you've recognized that someone in your life repeatedly invalidates your emotions, you have a choice. Communicate clearly, let them know how their behavior affects you. Example, When I share my feelings and you say I'm overreacting, it makes me feel unheard and unimportant. Sometimes people aren't even aware they're being dismissive. Giving them the chance to change is the first step. Set boundaries. If they refuse to acknowledge your feelings, stop seeking validation from them. Protect your emotional energy by limiting what you share with people who don't respect your emotions. Find people who do validate your feelings. Surround yourself with people who genuinely care, those who listen, who acknowledge, who make space for your emotions without judgment. A single genuine connection is worth more than 100 surface level ones. Trust yourself. Just because someone dismisses your feelings doesn't mean they aren't real. Your emotions are valid whether they acknowledge them or not. If someone constantly makes you feel like your emotions don't matter, the problem isn't you, it's them. One of the most confusing and emotionally draining behaviors of people who don't truly care about you is inconsistent presence. When someone is in your life, but only on their terms. Maybe they show up when they need something, but disappear when you do. Maybe they're attentive one week and distant the next. Maybe they act like your closest friend in certain moments, but forget you exist in others. This kind of inconsistency is exhausting because it keeps you in a cycle of hope and disappointment. One day they make you feel important, the next they're gone. And just when you start to think they don't care, they return, just enough to keep you holding on. But the truth is, real care, real love, and real friendship don't come with conditions. If someone is only present when it suits them, they are not truly present at all. How inconsistent presence shows up. Inconsistent people are hard to spot at first because they don't disappear completely. They just come and go when it benefits them. Here are some common signs. 1, they show up when they need something. When they're bored, they call you. When they need a favor, they suddenly remember you exist. When they want company, they invite you out, but only if no one better is available. When they're struggling, they expect you to be there, but when you need support, they're nowhere to be found. This is selective presence. They engage with you when it's convenient for them, but there's no reciprocity. 2, they are emotionally unavailable. One day they're warm, affectionate, and engaged. The next they're distant, distracted, or unreachable. When you try to discuss their inconsistency, they dismiss it. I've just been busy. You never know what version of them you're going to get. This creates a sense of emotional whiplash. One moment they make you feel valued. The next they make you question whether you matter to them at all. 3, they make plans but don't follow through. They say we should hang out soon, but never actually make an effort to plan something. They cancel at the last minute again and again. They commit to things when they're excited, but when the time comes, they're suddenly too busy. You're always the one reaching out to make things happen. When someone consistently fails to follow through on their words, their actions are speaking louder than anything they say. 4, they are hot and cold. They text you constantly for a few weeks, then go silent for months. They act like your best friend in person, but barely acknowledge you online or in other social settings. They make an effort when they're lonely, but as soon as they find someone else, they fade away. This inconsistency leaves you in a constant state of uncertainty. Do they care about me, or am I just an option? The emotional toll of an inconsistent presence. The problem with inconsistent people isn't just their behavior, it's the effect their behavior has on you. Being in any kind of relationship with someone who is inconsistent can make you feel anxious and uncertain about where you stand with them, create a false sense of hope that maybe this time will be different, make you doubt yourself, wondering if you're the problem, lead to emotional burnout from constantly trying to maintain a one-sided connection. Over time, this back and forth dynamic can erode your self-esteem. Instead of recognizing their inconsistency, you might start internalizing it, thinking maybe I'm not interesting enough, not important enough, not worth their time. But here's the truth. Their inconsistency is a reflection of them, not you. Why are some people inconsistent? It's natural to wonder. If they don't truly care, why don't they just leave completely? Here's some reasons why inconsistent people behave the way they do. They like the benefits of your presence, but don't want the responsibility of commitment. They enjoy your company when it suits them, but they don't want to invest in a deeper, more meaningful connection. They are emotionally immature. Some people are simply not capable of showing up consistently because they lack emotional depth or maturity. They don't respect your time or energy. When someone repeatedly comes and goes, it means they don't see you as a priority. They only engage when it's easy or beneficial for them. They are keeping their options open. Whether in friendships or romantic relationships, some people like to keep multiple doors open. They don't want to fully commit to any one connection, so they bounce between people when it's convenient. They assume you'll always be there. If you've tolerated their inconsistency before, they may believe they can keep doing it without consequences. How to respond to inconsistent people. If someone in your life is showing up inconsistently, you have a choice. Do you keep accepting their behavior, or do you set a boundary? 1, recognize the pattern. If someone's inconsistency is making you feel insecure, ignored, or undervalued, acknowledge that their behavior is the problem, not you. 2, stop making excuses for them. It's easy to justify their actions. They're just busy. They mean well. But repeated inconsistency is a choice. If they truly cared, they would make an effort. 3, communicate your needs. If the relationship is important to you, address it directly. I've noticed you're very present sometimes and distant at other times. That's been confusing for me. I need more consistency in my relationships. Do you think you can provide that? Their response will tell you everything you need to know. 4, match their energy. If they only reach out occasionally, stop being the one who always initiates. See if they step up. If they don't, that's your answer. 5, be willing to walk away. A relationship, friendship, family, or romantic relationship shouldn't feel like a guessing game. If someone isn't showing up for you consistently, you deserve better. Relationships, whether friendships, romantic partnerships, or even family bonds, are like a two-way street. They require mutual care, time, and effort to thrive. But what happens when the road is only being paved by one person? A lack of effort in a relationship is one of the clearest signs that someone doesn't truly care about you. It means they are content letting you do all the work, initiating plans, checking in, maintaining communication, while they coast along, offering little in return. Over time, this imbalance can leave you feeling drained, unappreciated, and questioning your own worth. But here's the truth: effort is a choice. If someone is unwilling to make an effort in the relationship, it means they either don't care enough to, or they are prioritizing themselves over the connection. Either way, you deserve better. How lack of effort shows up, a lack of effort doesn't always mean outright neglect. It often happens in subtle ways. And here's some common signs that someone isn't investing in the relationship the way you are. 1, you're always the one reaching out. You're always the first to text, call, or check in. If you stop reaching out, the relationship fades away because they rarely, if ever, take the initiative. You notice that they respond, but they rarely start conversations themselves. This signals that they may enjoy talking to you, but aren't interested enough to put in the effort to maintain the connection. 2, they don't prioritize spending time with you. They constantly say, we should hang out soon, but never actually make plans. When you try to schedule something, they're always too busy or cancel at the last minute. They always seem to have time for other people or things, but rarely for you. Time is one of the biggest indicators of care. When someone truly values you, they make time for you, not just when it's convenient for them, but because they genuinely want to. 3, they make no effort to deepen the connection. The conversations stay surface level because they don't ask about your life, your thoughts, or your feelings. They don't remember or acknowledge important things, your birthday, big events in your life, or things you've told them before. They don't engage in meaningful discussions or show genuine curiosity about you. A strong relationship isn't just about spending time together, it's about connecting on a deeper level. If someone consistently keeps things shallow, they aren't invested in truly knowing you.